As we take more interest in what we eat and where it comes from, more people are having a go at growing their own fruit and veg. It's great fun, no matter how much space you've got. Even if you've got a tiny garden, everybody has room for a window box. Everyone has a spare windowsill, and it's a great way to get started growing your own crops. The simplest way to start is with a really quick cropping herbs or cut and come again salads. All you need to do is put some compost in their window box. I would pick one without holes in the bottom. You want to keep all the water you can in there. Main problem people have when they're growing things in pots and containers is getting enough water in. Scrunch up some old newspaper in the bottom or put in some moisture retaining granules and then top up with your compost. Now I would start with something like a cut and come again lettuce selection, which is essentially like posh salad in a bag. They've pre-blended them for you and you just literally sprinkle those on the top, cover them up, and within a few days they'll have started to germinate. You'll be able to crop within a couple of weeks. And if you had 2 window boxes this size, you'd sow them alternately. You'd have enough salad for a couple of people for the entire year. So that's a brilliant place to start. Radishes are a great one. They're the first thing I ever grew. They taste so much better when you grow them yourself. Supermarkets, they can be a little bit bland, but they're really nice and peppery when you grow them yourself. You don't need to limit yourself either. You might think with a window box of this depth you can't grow some of the traditional crops such as carrots. You just need to be a bit sneaky, so pick a variety such as this lovely one with carrots that look like golf balls, so you don't need to worry about the depth if you pick something that's short and squat like this one. Pay some attention to the type of window box you pick. Now admittedly some of that is down to aesthetics, some of it's down to storage options. I really love this Age Zinc. I think it's really beautiful and timeless and will fit in with almost any situation. It's been treated so it won't rust, so it's very, very happy indoors or outdoors. Much more commonly available are these plastic boxes here. You can actually hide them within something prettier. They often fit and sink within a window box, so you can have all the advantage of that if you were using a reclaimed container. And they come in a variety of sizes, normally starting at about 40 centimetres and going up in increments, normally 40, 60, 80, 120. By the time you get much bigger than a metre, they tend to have been made bespoke. So if you want a gigantic window box to fit a very grand windowsill, you may be best off contacting your local carpenter for that. Now, one of the things I really like, because I don't have a lot of space, is some of these flat packing planters. You can use them to extend your garden in the summer when everything's really going crazy and you just don't have enough room. And then in the winter, when perhaps you've got less crops on the go, you can fold them flat and store them away. They're very, very clever because they're essentially a fabric growing bag, which you can pop and plant up as if it's a normal planter, and then you put them in a surround. Some of them are wicker like this. There are lots of different surrounds available, and you actually tuck them inside and it will look like you've got more of a mini raised bed. You can even get away popping plants in their pots. These ones have got their biodegradable coir pots on them, so that if you were to stick these in the soil, they would just rot away as well. And you can see how you can easily jam a couple of those in, and that takes what, 30 seconds to plant up a whole window box? I've got a selection of herbs and some strawberries in here. Herbs take a bit longer to grow from seed. They tend to be quite drought tolerant. If you pre-buy them as plants, then they'll be really, really happy. I've got some mint in here, which is an excellent choice for growing in a pot. It can get a bit invasive in a garden, so even if I supposedly hide it in the soil, I've always sunk it in a pot. And I've got some nice parsley and some thyme in there. You can also get hold of your vegetables as seedlings if you're a little bit behind the times and you don't think you've quite left enough time to grow them from scratch, or if you're just feeling a bit lazy. They're an excellent choice. They're normally widely available at garden centres, or you can get them mail order. Often they'll come in biodegradable pots themselves, so you can literally just pop them in and forget about them. When I'm dealing with slightly more complicated plants like tomatoes, I often suggest to people that for the first year they buy the plant and get used to growing it, looking after it, all the cropping and maintenance requirements. And then if they're happy with that, they can move on to trying to grow it from seed the next year. Saves people giving up if they have a little hiccup along the way. You really want to think about feeding your productive crops. Now, my secret weapon is tomato feed. I actually use this on all sorts of things in window boxes, whether they're ornamental or veg. And the key really is to make sure you give the most amount of feed and water when they're in flower, which is when they really need the extra burst of nutrients to get growing and provide you with these lovely crops. Terracotta is a classic choice for the garden. It looks so beautiful and it gives that timeless feel that we associate with a classic kitchen garden. But we have to be a bit careful when we're using it to grow our fruit and veg because it's really thirsty and it tends to suck out all the water that we've intended for our lovely crops. The top tip that I would give you is just use an alternative material, something non-porous like a plastic or a metal instead. But if you're determined to use terracotta, my tip for you would be to sink it in a plastic liner inside the pot. If you were growing this tomato, you might actually not unpot it from the plastic and you'd hide it in there. If you need to, put a bit of gravel on top. That way you get all the beauty of your terracotta and all the advantages of keeping the moisture in. So there's your introduction to entry-level Grow Your Own.